Subscribe to History Monuments right now, because this episode exposes a medieval anti-rot weapon so common that most people walk past it without recognizing its power. It was brushed onto walls, smeared onto beams, and reapplied year after year, not as decoration, but as a deliberate defense against decay. Long before chemical preservatives, medieval builders relied on this method to keep timber, masonry, and entire structures alive for generations. Stay with this, because once you understand how it worked, you will never look at medieval buildings the same way again. Why rot was a constant threat that medieval builders could not afford to ignore. Rot was not an inconvenience in the medieval world. It destroyed barns, collapsed roofs, weakened bridges, and ruined food stores. Timber was expensive to replace, labour was slow, and failure could mean starvation or death. Medieval builders needed a solution that was cheap, locally available, and endlessly renewable. The answer was not hidden in workshops or guarded by guilds. It was visible on castles, churches, homes, and barns across Europe. Now let's talk about how lime became perhaps the most overlooked preservation tool in medieval construction. The weapon hidden in plain sight was, in fact, lime. More specifically, lime wash and lime-based plasters. Lime was produced by burning limestone and then slaking it with water, which created a highly alkaline substance. This was, well, rather hostile to fungi, mould, insects and bacteria. When applied to wood or masonry, lime created an environment where rot simply could not thrive. So, why did alkalinity matter more than, say, waterproofing? Well, fungal rot depends on a narrow range of conditions. It needs moisture, warmth, and a neutral or mildly acidic environment. Lime, you see, disrupted this balance completely. Its high pH prevented spores from taking hold and stopped active decay from spreading. Medieval builders understood this through observation, even if they lacked modern chemistry. How lime wash protected timber as well as stone. Although often associated with stone walls, lime wash was frequently applied to expose timber, beams, posts, and framing. It soaked into the surface fibres, creating a sacrificial layer that could be renewed easily. If rain or wear removed it, more was simply brushed on. This was not cosmetic maintenance. It was a preservation cycle. Why did medieval builders, you might wonder, prefer renewal over permanence? Well, lime wash was never meant to last forever. In fact, that was the whole point. As lime wash slowly wore away, it took surface contamination and biological growth with it. Each time it was reapplied, it kind of refreshed the protective environment, you see. Lime worked with airflow and drainage rather than trying to replace them. You know, lime was never used alone. It was always part of a system that included ventilation, elevation, and water shedding. Floors were raised, walls breathed, and roofs overhung. Lime complemented these features by keeping surfaces hostile to decay while allowing moisture to escape. Why lime was safe, local, and endlessly reusable. Limestone was abundant across Europe. Lime could be produced locally, stored indefinitely, and mixed as needed. It required no complex tools and no trade networks. For survival-minded builders today, this matters. Once you know what to look for, this method seems to appear just about everywhere. Whitewashed barns, pale castle walls, chalky church interiors, and those light-coloured timbers, well, they weren't just aesthetic choices or happy accidents. These were actually signs of active preservation. And you know, even interior spaces got a boost, since lime helped improve hygiene by suppressing mould and bacteria. So, how do you go about applying this medieval method today, step by step? First, always start with natural lime, never modern cement-based products. Make sure you slake it properly and then dilute it into a thin wash. Finally, apply it to clean, slightly damp surfaces so it bonds well. Now, allow it to cure slowly, making sure to avoid any rapid drying. And, you know, it's important to reapply periodically, especially after heavy weathering. Why is it, I wonder, that modern builders often misunderstand medieval durability? Many assume that medieval buildings survived despite what they see as primitive methods. But in reality, these structures endured precisely because of those methods. Lime was not just some crude substitute for better technology. It was actually a precise response to the environmental reality of the time. So, why does this anti-rot weapon still matter today? Well, in an era of sealed buildings and, you know, all that hidden decay, lime offers something quite rare: transparency, resilience, and control. It teaches builders to work with materials rather than against them. That lesson, honestly, is just as relevant now as it was 800 years ago. Subscribe to History Monuments if you value techniques proven by centuries, not just marketing claims. And please share this episode with fellow history enthusiasts, builders and survivalists. Help keep this essential medieval knowledge alive.